How's it going, guys? How's everybody doing this morning? So I've been gone for a couple days. I was traveling, and then we got stuck in the snow. That was a wonderful experience. I'm very, very glad to be back. Glad to not be trading from mobile. Ironically, we were all just talking about in Discord. We were just talking about how we've all noticed some weird stuff going on with Thinkorswim. Well, I got caught out in the middle of nowhere, and I had my laptop with me, but my cell signal was so poor that I couldn't use my hotspot from my phone to tether, and so I was having to trade from mobile the whole time. And I've used mobile quite a bit. I even like sometimes opening and closing trades on there because it's so simple. But that was that was super frustrating, and especially when there wasn't really a lot going on in the market, I end up setting a lot of like market neutral positions. And so I forget how hard. It's super easy just opening or buying or selling a naked call or put. But man, when you guys start setting up some, big customized butterflies and condors and vultures and all that, it starts to get so tricky. That was definitely a good reminder of why we trade properly with the proper tools. I mostly just closed stuff out. I didn't really take a lot of trades. Kind of going to be the same thing today, because tomorrow, was absolutely a chop fest. Seemed like neither side could really make up its mind. We are at a critical level on both in the S&Ps and SPY, as well as in IWM, the Qs, Nasdaq. Every market is basically at this point, like an inflection point, especially in SPY, where I expect it to be pretty quiet going, especially, any real big news is going to be waiting on the Fed today. That's the biggest story, obviously, and I expect a pretty quiet day, to be honest. Probably a pretty quiet morning. It could totally flip on us and just take off, but we're sitting at 31, 39.50 right now, and just kind of chugging along here. It did spike last night, actually earlier this morning, up to like 31.43 or whatever it was, and then just popped right back down, and then we kind of slowly grinded back up there. So I expect that kind of to be the way it is. You can see here on my futures table, the bonds, they actually bought back up pretty high yesterday and then sold off late last night, early this morning, and now they're kind of sitting at this middle ground around the 158.07. Gold has done the same thing, where it has just been slowly being bought up. It's actually up to 1471 now. So that is something I'll be keeping an eye on, is bonds and gold, as well as the VIX and other volatility futures. Oil is actually starting to move up again. It's kind of been in this super choppy fest for the last basically 2 days after last week's up and downs. So oil will be a big factor. XLF sitting around the 30 right now. That'll be something I'll be keeping an eye on. I just expect kind of a chop fest again. It's been this name of the game for the last month and a half basically. But definitely today, going into the Fed meeting, which always sucks that they don't do these announcements until I think it's 2 p.m. Eastern, because then you kind of are sitting here all day just kind of trying to figure out what to do. So as far as getting in and out of stuff, I don't really have a lot going. I've got hedges and I've got some open positions that are long term. I don't really have anything short term right now. I don't see myself just jumping into anything right away. Obviously, if I do, I will be calling it out and, explaining what I'm doing. I'm probably going to sell a little premium today just to take advantage of the slowness and of the choppiness. That way I can just collect, maybe a couple $100, just so at least I have, something, because that's what I do a lot of times, right? Like, I don't trade every day. I don't trade all the time. Like, I generally do, but a lot of times I have found that the less I trade, the more I make, actually, because the better and more consistent trades I'm taking stronger trades. I'm weeding out of this, just the whole taking a trade to take a trade kind of thing. Yeah, DT, that's exactly what I was doing. I'm not gonna lie. That is, but technically we were filming, so that's part of my job. So, yeah, so I expect it to kind of be a choppy all day. I'm gonna go through some news here real quick while we are waiting. Hold on one second. I gotta My email's been blowing up since I got back. Yeah, so some of the stuff that I think will be important to keep an eye on, individual names like, so there was some news surrounding Home Depot. They came out with, I'm not sure if it was last night or this morning, but the HD Home Depot, their forecast for 2020 sales growth, now they have retracted what they were saying at earnings. So now they're expecting revenue to drop even more. They're expecting another 1 to 2% drop. They're saying that, when I looked into it a little bit more, they're saying that it's because of low home sales and lower home improvement. I think they do this by they're able to generate these numbers from home sales growth, and also from they get numbers from the financial institutions that show like how many people are taking out loans and stuff for home improvement, and apparently it's like at like a 10-year low. So Home Depot is lowering their guidance on their 2020 forecast. So what I haven't seen yet, and I will lead me to probably kind of be watching this, is what about the other retailers that go along with that. So Lowe's, they haven't said anything in conjunction with this, but I have a funny feeling we're going to start hearing some really bad numbers coming out of both of these names, Home Depot and Lowe's, over the next couple of weeks into the couple of months into 2020. So that's something I'll be watching for. If we start to see lower and lower home growth and lower loans for home improvements, I'm definitely going to be shorting and selling premium on Home Depot and Lowe's for sure. So there's a little bit of a trade idea there. So I will probably look at more of this today, because I have a feeling we're going to be pretty slow after a little bit after open. So I'll probably start looking at this long term. The other one I would be looking at would be XHB, and a couple of other names that I'll go over today, just to show you guys kind of how that process works for me when I see a catalyst like this that's just slowly kind of leaking out, where this potentially can go. Now, it's not going to guarantee that every home builder is going to crash and XHB is going to go to $5, but there's possibly a really, really good trade being handed to us on a platter here on this. GameStop, ticker symbol GME, reported a quarterly loss of 49 cents per share, which compared to the consensus forecast of 11 cents, which is horribly bad. They're saying that quarterly sales plunged and the company cut its full-year profit forecast as customers delay purchase ahead of the releases of new consoles like Sony's PlayStation and the Microsoft Xbox. So they're saying that basically people aren't buying up as much product right now because everybody is waiting for the new PlayStation and the new Xbox to come out, which is kind of true, and I'm involved in this world quite heavily. I do call a little BS because some of the other names have been selling huge amounts, because we had two huge games this year for the holidays, which were two of the hottest items, which was the new Star Wars game and the new Call of Duty. So I understand we're not selling as many machines, but that should have been expected when there wasn't a new console coming out till, I'm not sure when the PlayStation is coming out. One of you guys might know. I think it's supposed to come out next holiday season, or maybe this summer. I can't remember what they were saying. They usually like to release them around November, so that's what I would expect. Dropbox, ticker DBX, announced that Chief Customer Officer Yami, I can't say her name, I've never been able to say it, Yamini Ragan, will step down. She will remain with the company until January 3rd to assist with the transition. I don't see Dropbox being really a trade on that. It's just some news to be looking at. Chevron, Children's Place, Mednex, all these bargain, all of these reported nothing really too big to me that I'm seeing. AT&T has some news out, ticker symbol T. AT&T has entered into an accelerated $4 billion share repurchase program with a goal of retiring 100 million shares during the first quarter of 2020. So to me, that is huge. So AT&T is going to repurchase $4 billion worth of stock. So to me, that is a absolute positive catalyst for them, that something big is going on. I imagine we're going to start hearing some other news coming out in the following weeks about this. They're probably restructuring. I'm sure they're trying to compete with a lot of the with a lot of the new technology. I know they were talking about getting, they were trying to get ahead of the competition with some 5G stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear them putting some money behind that, which will drop their stock price for a little bit. But then, once that gets going, it'll surge. So that's something I'll be paying attention to. The other thing I was going to be watching today is UPS. They were downgraded to market perform from outperform at BMO. So BMO being one of the ones that I actually think matters. I do think that UPS is possibly a trade today with that downgrade. It hasn't moved too much yet, but we'll see what happens. Everything's going to be kind of just choppy this morning anyway, guys. So it's going to be a little bit tricky. Dave & Buster's reported, nothing's really there in line. A couple others that were basically the same. Yeah, so the only other thing is really the trade meeting this afternoon, and then the whole discussion of the tariff release for this weekend, the 15th, which is kind of gone back and forth, and depending if you get your news from China or from the U.S., depends on who you talk to. They're delaying, they're not delaying, they're doing this and that. I have a feeling that Trump is using this as a card up his sleeve type of thing with them. I have a feeling he's going to delay to try to get to be kind of put on the friendly face, good cop, bad cop type of thing. So I have a feeling we'll hear more about that today and tomorrow. And I really think he was also using this towards the Fed meeting today, but there's no way. I don't see at all any possible way that they're going to cut today at all. I think it's going to just stay what it is, and we're going to get one of those same statements we did, I think, like last time, where it's just the market's doing good, there's problems in the world, we'll just watch it and see what we can, and if we need to, we'll adjust later. I'm almost positive that's exactly what we'll hear today. So, yeah, I definitely think that we're going to hear something about the delayed tariffs this weekend, which is the 15th. And then, otherwise, you guys, it's just going to be super choppy out of the gates here. I would say be absolutely careful getting directional for the day. Really, you shouldn't probably be taking a lot of day trades anyway. So if we're going to be setting up something, it should be at least, even if you're buying something 30 to 45 days out, you should be looking to get rid of it in a week or two. That's kind of the name of the game. But we'll see if we can't find something setting up today. There are a few things that are starting to look good. I think some of the other stuff I'll be looking at. So I definitely want to look at UPS this morning and see if we can see it moving at all. Some of the other names I'll be watching will be Netflix, obviously after the downgrade and the big drop yesterday. Its RVOL was up significantly this morning, so I will be watching that. MU, Facebook, Boeing, Amazon, Microsoft, JP Morgan, Starbucks, and Activision, and I also might be watching United Airlines, UAL. I really, really like Boeing and Facebook and Netflix this morning, specifically Facebook and Netflix. I will be looking at Activision. They had a really good, strong day yesterday. Usually they don't follow through much, so I might be looking to see if the market pulls back, if they'll be pulling back too. As I was going through all that, we'll kind of look at the futures here before we get ready for open, and then we'll go over some some trade ideas as we get into open. Sorry, guys. So bonds are selling off a little bit here, as well as gold starting to pull back a little bit. Oil has pulled back on it as it was kind of making a nice push up there. At the same time, though, the S&Ps and the NASDAQ are starting to fall in just a little bit. We're still up about 0.07 in the S&Ps and 0.19 in the NASDAQ. So that'll be definitely something we'll keep an eye on. I'm going to grab another cup of coffee real quick, and then I'll be back on for open, and we'll try to see if we can find some direction in the choppiness. I have a very strong feeling I'm going to be right about this, that we're going to just be kind of chopping around. And even after the announcement, I don't really see it just taking off to one side or the other, unless some crazy catalyst news is dropped. But other than that, you guys, grab some coffee, do some stretching, run in circles, whatever you got to do, get awake, and we'll get ready to go here in about 5 minutes. I will be right back on in just a minute, guys. Thanks. All right, guys. Oh. Yeah, DT, I feel you. I'm tired today, too, now that I think about it. After you said that, I was already on my fourth cup of coffee, and I just can't. I'm going to have to slam some Red Bulls. So it seems like everywhere I look, guys, it's pretty much same thing that we're all saying and all talking about. It's just mixed signals for waiting on the Fed. I mean, I definitely believe that at the same time, but I also we all kind of know what's going to happen. It's just these super low volume days, too. And that's the other thing I've been noticing. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago about low volume, and I know it's one of those things that's hard to get used to, especially like as a newer trader that like in bull markets, especially in rallies, there is really low volume. It's really strange. And then obviously when things start crashing, people panic, right? And then they start buying, so the volume just surges because everybody's wanting to get out or buy back in, whatever side they're on. But that's how it usually goes. Hold on, guys. I'm updating in Discord, but get ready here. We're gonna open in just a few seconds here. Choppy chop chop. Be careful. All right, let's see where we open here. So out of the gate, ticking up pretty decent already. Volatility is up slightly as well on the VIX. We're still up in the 15s, which is significant. Our add decline line opening at 630, so that's a pretty strong open. I would have liked to see that over 900, but still pretty good. Basically, I always say, over 400, we're definitely bullish. Over 900, significant, and if it's over 1500, it's very strong. Now, those are different numbers than a lot of people give, like 500, 1000, 2000, but I like to give a little bit of wiggle room there. But as you can see, the market's just dropping here slightly at open. That's pretty expected. I do think we'll get a little bit of shakiness going on here. I expect to drop. I'm thinking about 31.31 at the lowest, and then I see us popping back up. I think we're going to stay in this range today, probably between like, I'd say 31.31 to like 31.42, 43 at the most, somewhere in there. So just depending on where we're going to move around. I definitely want to be watching Roku is another one I want to watch this morning. Let me pull these up for you guys. Hold on one second. I forgot. I got to move this back down. So let's go ahead and... So Boeing opening pretty low, already down over 2%. Shopify down slightly at 366.84. Roku making a little push up here. It's going to find some resistance there on that middle Celt on the 4 hour. We'll look at it on daily here in a second. Tesla opening up nice and strong once again today after that big run up yesterday. And it's been doing good this week. I mean, you can see from Monday to today, it's already gone up from what was that, about 336. Now already up to 352 just this week, 353. That's a big run. Activision pushing up again, another strong day this morning. So far, I'll be watching that to see if we can get a sell signal. I'll look at that on the daily and weekly as well here in a minute. I'll go through them all. Qualcomm making a nice push, finally getting over that upper Celt as resistance. You can see it's been holding that for the last couple of days, so that is significant on Qualcomm to push up over the upper Celt there. That's very, very significant. McDonald's still in the green, but selling off here from most of its pre-market gains. AMD got nice support on the 14, but it's got some resistance on the 30, so it's kind of stuck in between that range. Same with Baidu and Baba. They're both going to find heavy resistance right above there. Let's go ahead and go through these since we definitely have time. It's going to be just a choppy morning. Might as well look at these in detail while we can. 1 second, guys. I want to look at... Let's look at Roku first. So we're getting a little bit of sell-off on Roku here, but this is expected as I could see them trying to shake out the weak hands. As I always say, it's one of those things. There is a lot of support under here. So you can see on the weekly up here, let's go ahead and zoom this in, guys, on Roku. So there's a ton of weekly support right here, which is going to be very, very significant and strong. It's at about 135.40-ish area because you've got your 14 and your middle Celt right there. So that's an MA as well. So you've got really nice support on the weekly. On daily, you've got the lower Celt here at about 138.85. So basically, as far down, I would risk about $2 to make, that $10. I wouldn't want to see it go this low or even close to that low really today. I would say the stop for me today would be the 14 MA on the 4 hour here, which is at about 145.72. So about $2 where we're at right now. But what I would be saying is risk that $2 on that down move, because if it breaks this middle Celt on the 4 hour, you're pretty much wide open because that's about the same level on the daily. And if that happens, you've got to run all the way to this 164, 165, 157. You've got targets. So, your target 1 would basically be the 30 MA on the 4 hour, which is 152. Target 2 would be the upper Celt on 4 hour, which is about 157. And target 3, where I would probably be taking most of my profits if it ran this far in the next couple of days, would be 165. So if you're in this, I wouldn't get too scared yet. It's how Roku is. It's very volatile. I'd wait to see if this shakes out. I would at least let it, go to this 14 MA on the 4 hour, which is about 145. I know it's so hard when you start seeing all that red right out of the gate. But Roku is definitely one of those names that, it could just keep taking off, but that's where your stop is, right? So you set your stop, you give yourself a little bit of room, but wait for this thing to get bought back up, because I have a feeling it'll sell off here for the first maybe 15, 30 minutes even, and then we could see a nice climb back up. That's, Roku is such a weird momentum stock. I love it, but it's one of those things where you've got to absolutely have faith that your trade idea is right. And honestly, from what I can see, I see no other reason not to think that it is bullish. I mean, on the monthly, it's extremely bullish. On the weekly, it's in a nice range here. The daily is definitely has some room up. I mean, every time frame I look at is significant. The only one I see anything is on the monthly, maybe because it's a little overextended, but even then, not really for Roku, right? So this is going to be a little bit tricky to watch this. But see, as we're closing in on that 14 MA at 145.60, that's where I would put my stop. So you've got about another $1 down before I would be getting out of that. However, if it can find support here, then I would be looking to go long here. So if it holds on to here, I might sell some premium below, and I might buy a couple contracts at probably next week or the week after. I wouldn't go too far out, but that's just because I'm only going to be in the trade for today, maybe tomorrow. While this is kind of doing its thing, let's look at a couple other names. I wanted to look at Starbucks this morning. So you can see on Starbucks, we've got, it's right at daily resistance here. So on the upper Celt, it's got a little bit of room there, but it's basically there and already kind of ran into it. That's where it basically opened this morning after the little pre-market gains here. Also on the 4 hour, it's got a little bit of room up there. So Starbucks is a little bit tricky for me right now. I basically missed the trade last week. I think DT and I were the ones talking about it last week. I was just reading your comments. Sorry. Yeah, so Starbucks, I think DT and I were looking at it last week. I really wish when we said it, I think we were talking about it on Thursday, and I should have grabbed it off the bounce off the 4 hour on the middle Celt, but I was waiting for this, the 14 MA. That's what was scaring me, and as you can see, it actually did hold it until Friday when it opened up above. So Starbucks will be another one I'll be watching today. Let's check on Netflix. Netflix is actually up already 1% this morning. So after that big, I mean, you can see it just, it's kind of been on the daily here. It's just been selling off, but it did find support on the lower Celt on the daily yesterday. So that is significant, which would have been a great entry and a clue as to where to get in. It was holding this as support on the daily and also holding the middle Celt on the weekly. So that was very, very strong support there. And remember, guys, that the larger the time frame, the more significant the support or the resistance, and that is absolutely true on either way. Even looking at this from a fundamental trade or even from a contrarian trade, after such a big drop, it would have been a pretty clear sign yesterday to grab this. I wish I would have been able to be on the computer yesterday. Like I said, it was just so hard looking at the phone trying to chart and stuff. I mean, you'll see me, like, you guys see me like send charts from the mobile app all the time in Discord, but that's because I'm usually looking at it on my computer, and it's easier for me just to literally crop it and send it right away through the Discord app on the phone. It's not that I'm actually like out using the phone or like traveling on it. So Netflix trying to push up here pretty good this morning already, up about almost about 360, so not bad. Nice little push up on Netflix. I do think though that as we get closer on the daily here to the 30 MA, we're going to find some resistance there. I just don't see Netflix, leading the pack here. I think if it stays in the green today, it's going to be maybe a 2%er, which is pretty good for Netflix, but I already would have missed my entry, right? So I definitely want to keep an eye on this. If it does find resistance here on the middle Celt on daily or lower Celt on the 4-hour, I will probably be looking at a little bit of a reversal play on that. What else was I looking at? I know I wanted to look at Microsoft, but it's not doing much. What did I... let's check in on Apple real quick, because I was talking about... Oh, and Activision after this is what I was looking at. So you can see Apple is pretty extended on the monthly and the weekly. I mean, not huge, but it's pretty far up there. Definitely going to find some resistance here on the daily at the upper Celt, as well as the upper Celt on the 4-hour. So we're running into a lot of technical resistance lines here as it's starting to sell off. It had a nice little it was just, slight little push up pre-market here, but now it's kind of selling off. I think this is going to be one of those main stocks we were talking about, like in pre-market, where it's just going to kind of chop around all day. Man, I cannot believe Activision is already up another 1.3% this morning. I mean, God, this thing has just been, look at this, just 2 great days. It consolidated for so long right in here, just a little bit of a climb up, and then the last couple of days it just ripped. Look at this on the 4-hour. That's just amazing, man. Like, wow, what a good trade that would have been. I'm so mad I was gone yesterday. I watch this thing every day, and the 2 days I'm gone is when it decides to rip again. I guess this morning I could have caught it, but I'd be chasing it. It was already up. I saw the IV was up quite a bit. For Activision, it was up quite a bit. Boeing to the downside, it's already down 2%, like I was saying there a few minutes ago. It was continuing to drop. It hit a low of 338.50, so... this thing is just falling apart here. There was some news about Boeing. It was... I didn't read the entire thing, so I'm not exactly sure, but they were saying something about they were extending the 737 MAX contracts or whatever into 2020. I'm not sure how that's going to be read or interpreted. Obviously, somewhat negative so far, or it's just selling off before it decides to climb back up. It's so hard to say with a day like today. Natural gas is back up. I know I was talking about you guys about that last week, I believe, or maybe it was this. No, it was this week. It was this weekend. That's right. What else was I watching? Cirrus Logic, Disney. Let's check out Disney. It's actually, I know there's a few people that have been watching and playing this. So Disney's got a bit of resistance here on the middle Celt on the daily, and it's running into resistance on the 14 MA on the 4-hour. It's got a nice little push up so far this morning. Disney to me is one of those things where, yes, you could play it daily, but I really, really think this is a long-term play because, like I keep pushing, I think 2020 is going to be a massive year for Disney. So me personally, I've been picking up shares here and there. I don't have that much, to be honest. It's like I think I have like 50 shares right now. But I'm definitely going to be looking at picking up some long-term selling some premium on the long term and buying some long-term calls, like I'm saying, like 4 or 5 months out at least. They'll be pretty expensive, but I expect about 50% of those to be cashing those out, especially on buying those, because when I buy stuff that far out, I don't like to buy stuff if I'm not going to be playing it very, very short term. I'll sell premium for long term. That has always been a strategy, especially credit spreads, guys. That's why I cannot stress those videos enough that Darth has been putting out. And on that, I'll be also putting out a short video. I'm hoping this weekend I'll have it done. A shorter video on hedging, just a really concise, detailed, probably like 15-minute video on exact hedging, and I'll actually have some live examples in there that I've been recording. So that'll be something I'll be putting out here ASAP. I wanted to look at NVIDIA. Man, these are messy charts on the video. I need to go back in and redo these. So NVIDIA's kind of been bouncing all around here the last, basically since earnings last. So like the last, 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I would really like to see this, and this isn't going to probably happen today, but I'd really like to see NVIDIA retest this middle celt down here around like 211. If it can hold that as support, that's when I would want to get long. But as it is right now, it's kind of in this no man's land, which is a lot of these plays that I'm looking at so far, and I apologize for that. It's just kind of the market we're sitting in, hence why I want to go so strongly into that hedging video, because I think this is something that is critical where the market is right now, and not even just hedging because I think it's going to dump or I think it's going to rip, but I think that it's important because when you hedge, you're basically setting yourself up. You're just basically trading just the opposite way of your bias, right? And that's why I go neutral a lot of times, and that's why I keep trying to push that for you guys to understand that most of the time I'm not bearish or bullish whatsoever. I don't know which way the market's going to go, right? Like, yes, I can call it usually pretty well like the day of or the day before, but that's based off sentiment and breadth and all those indicators. But it's like the weather. It's absolutely accurate for today, but there's no way somebody can tell you the weather is going to be next week. I don't care what they say. And it's the same with the market. I actually make that stupid analogy a lot about the weather. I say that a lot with different ways about the weather and the market. Guy, DT, you're so weird. Yeah, I think this Boeing trade is hey, ADG is back. What up, dog? Yeah, you guys, if you're looking in the Discord, Addicted is right. So we all were talking about, and we had those trades on shop last week, and it is back on the trend line break. He's absolutely right. Yeah, DT, I don't blame you, man. Sitting on your hands, it's especially a day like today. It's just going to be choppy all day. I almost can guarantee it. Oh, that's funny. I didn't even look in. He's talking about NVIDIA on the breakout, and we were just going over that. Yeah, I think NVIDIA is setting up nicely here. It's been a nice little consolidation here as it was building back up. It's definitely building up for a big move. So I definitely think NVIDIA is one of those ones that's getting ready to go. Yeah, Willie, I'm not sure if you're still on here. That I know that Roku trade, it just kind of fell apart there on you. I'm sorry, man. That sucks. Especially when, I mean, you can just see like you had that line, and see now it's on the 4 hour. You can see where it's it's broken the 14 MA there on the 4 hours. So that would have been my absolute last stop, like I was saying a few minutes ago. There's no way you could have let that go, and now it's just continuing to sell off. See, and I wouldn't even be surprised. I mean, I guess you could have caught a bounce from the middle celt down, but there's no way to know that, right? But this thing's probably going to fall apart for the majority of the day. I mean, it'll probably, I wouldn't imagine it falling any farther than like 140, 166 area, somewhere in there, which is lower celt on the 4 hour, but who knows? I mean, it can move. Was there any news on Roku? I don't see any news specifically on it. You're unique. Yeah, you're your own unique, all right. If anybody sees any news on Roku, let me know, please. I'm trying to look into it, seeing if I can find anything here. Man, I just do not see anything on it. Yeah, I don't see shit on it. Shop will also be interesting to see if it can hold this upper celt on the daily as support, or if it breaks through that. And I think if it breaks down from there, and especially, and then there's on the trend lines too. So it'll be interesting to see where this ends up today, I think. I was actually gonna look at I want to draw some new trend lines in here on Shop while I have the chance. Let's open this up a bit bigger. That's crazy to think how long Shopify was absolutely just coasting along here for like a year and a half doing nothing. It's just so weird. I do think though Shopify is one of those names where it'll be significantly in play for a while now, which I was wrong about, because I think when they were first introduced, I gave them like a year before they'd be bankrupt, so I was wrong. I mean, it's the same thing like with a lot of these names, though. So Shopify being bought back up here, it'll be interesting to see where we end up today. I think this is going to be kind of the name of the game all around, you guys. Is just sell off, bought back up, sell out. You know what I mean? It's just going to be bouncing around here. Skyworks taking off again today for the second day in a row, already up over 2.2% here. So significantly pushing up. It is basically breaking out once again. So this thing, I think, I'm looking at this side. So I've got, why did I, oh, that's right. I forgot on Friday I sold half of these. So I only have a couple of these contracts left. I think I'll hold on to them for at least for another couple of days. I would like to see this thing push up into this developing trend line I have up above. So I'll go more into that here in a little bit after we slow down a little bit. I was going to look at Tesla again. So it's interesting to note here, guys, the S&P and the NASDAQ are both up about 0.2%, and the Dow is actually down about 0.01%. So I know that with a few of the names like weighing on it. So that's what I was talking about it this morning, this pre-market. I was going to show you guys. Man, Tesla is just ripping today again. This is just crazy. Already up about $8 this morning. I was going to look at this Home Depot trade here, and also then the correlated trade, which would have been Lowe's. So that'll be interesting to see. So you can see that it sold off pretty heavy pre-market this morning with that negative news about their outlook. And then as we got into open here, it started to get bought back up. I do think, though, over the coming days, we'll probably see a little bit more of a sell-off. It's already had a pretty negative run since earnings. If you guys remember, it had really bad earnings. It was already looking at bad. They had a lot of issues where they were trying to pinpoint and saying that it was just this new whatever. They had something new that they had put into their business model or something, and they were trying to pass it off as like a one-off. But obviously now with the news coming out today, it's obvious there's more going on negative at that company than they let on. But so yeah, they're kind of trying to buy the dip here this morning. But I think even if it happens today, I may wait to see if this thing pushes up a little bit farther. Definitely though, on the 4 hour, you can see it just ran. It was right. That's pretty much where it pushed into right here. Pushed into the 4 hour on the lower celt. If it tries to get brought back up here, I definitely see that as significant resistance, and that's probably where I will start selling some premium and then buying some puts as well. I'll probably do some spreads on that. Hopefully if that happens today, I'd like to see it push up into there as resistance so I can go in and show you guys in live time. I can show you guys how I would do these credit spreads on this. I would love to see that today, so we'll definitely keep an eye on that. I may even just do like maybe a small one just to show you guys here this morning, but we'll see what happens here. I'll give it a little bit of time to formulate. I was going to look back at Qualcomm again. I think Snorkel was just talking about this as well. Yeah, Qualcomm on a nice little breakout here as well. So the semis, some of the offshoot semis doing pretty good this morning. How is my Cirrus doing? Pretty good, up already almost 1% as well. Activision. And AMD, though, is down. So, interesting. Give me a second here, guys. I'm trying to... Beyond moving up, already up 2.28%, huh? Wow. Yeah, Skyworks, Tesla, Qualcomm, Netflix, Activision, Cat, Disney, Apple, Cirrus, Baba, Twitter, Nvidia, Baidu, and gold still up slightly too. So all those are all the my leaders on my watch list here. Let's look at Beyond, actually, see what Beyond's doing today. Yeah, you can see Beyond pushed up after hours last night, and then as well as this morning in pre-market, and now it's just kind of taken off there. It's got heavy, significant resistance, though, here on the daily. You can see it's running into resistance on the middle celt, but if you look there, too, there's also the 14 and the 30s coming right. They're all converging right there, so there's going to be heavy resistance. However, it breaks that resistance, and this thing could run all the way up to probably like 83, so... I'll be watching that closely, too, to see if that tries to start breaking out there over that. Basically chasing it at this point, though, and looking on the other side. Yeah, God, it's such a crazy IV on this thing still. I actually am starting to like Beyond where it's at, price-wise, fundamental-wise. I mean, I think I said this months ago. I'm sure nobody really remembers, but we were talking about how it needed to get down to about like the $50 to $70 range. Well, we're, basically there now. So, in the high 70s. So the IV is crazy to see now because this thing all summer basically was running at like 100+%. It's like 150, 160. It's at 53% now, 54%. So that's pretty good though for Beyond. Still would like to see it a little bit lower fundamental wise. I don't think I would ever purchase shares in this thing, but it made me a lot of money, to be honest, playing it. But it was I think this is one of the craziest IPOs for sure. Definitely of this year, but I mean of recent years. It's thing went absolutely berserk for no reason. Yeah, a lot of these calls are already up 100% this morning. Yeah, I'd like to see this thing run into resistance, and then I would be getting short on it, or at least sell some calls into that. Let's go back to Apple, guys. So Apple making the nice push here. You can see in Discord, Addict is posted with the trend lines in there. The only problem I see, it broke the resistance here on the upper Celt on the 4 hour. It does have a pretty good line of resistance here on the upper Celt on the daily, so that will be significant. It breaks that, and within the trend line, this thing is just going to absolutely rip. I mean, we got all-time highs here at, what, 271, right? Yeah. I mean, we're right there knocking on the door again at 270.56. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and draw these trend lines in here on the daily. Oh, crap. I screwed that all up. I'm going to move this to the 30-minute, make it a little bit easier to draw these in. It's kind of... There we go. Yeah, you guys can see here. So on these trend lines, we're at the bottom, right? We're at the very bottom of this trend line here this morning. So this thing has got a nice amount of room to the upside here. I mean, it's putting me up. In the next few days, I could see us. In about a week, we could be all the way back up to like 273-ish area, 274 even easily. So that'll be something interesting to watch on the on Apple here. And again, it's got that. Overhead resistance right here, but we're right at the door. I mean, it pushes up over that today, and we're gonna see this thing just keep ripping up here all the way up to like that 273 area. So that's what I'll be definitely keeping my eyes on. And obviously, as heavily weighted as Apple is, it's this is critical for this thing to be moving. Let us check in with some of the other names here. Let's look at our futures. The S&P's pushing up here once again, up at 3142 area. The NASDAQ up at 83.9450. Bonds are pushing back up, being bought up here, so that is something to be keeping an eye out on for sure. Oil pushed up to about 59.20, starting to sell off just ever so slightly. Gold is kind of chopping back and forth as we kind of anticipated this morning. XLF is kind of just hovering around that 30-32 level. Let's continue to look at our FANG stocks here. So Facebook is up just ever so slightly. It did sell off pretty hard there right before market opened, and then it's kind of been chopping, but it's starting to push up now. Apple, we obviously have been going over, which we will continue to go over. We are at 270.92 for the high today. I would love to see this thing hit all-time highs again today. Would be awesome. Amazon is just absolutely sloppy chopping around here, up about $3.90. Netflix is continuing to push up from the pre-market sell-off. It's already up $4.77. I'll be watching that for that resistance play like I was saying earlier. I'll get back to that here in a little bit to see how close we are to that. Google doing pretty much the same as Amazon, just kind of slopping around here, chopping back and forth. Microsoft sold off pretty harshly here this morning, and now it's being bought back up. So they definitely are buying the dip on Microsoft this morning. Check in on Boeing. Boeing starting to push back up after a low of 338.50. It's now up to 342.65 as we push up. Roku basically being saved and finding some support on the 4-hour on the 14 MA. Activision hitting a high of 56.98, backed off a little bit to 56.50. Shopify pushing above the upper Celt on the 4-hour here. We're up about 462. NVIDIA continuing to run up nice and strong here today. I think Addicted just posted a update on those trend lines. I'll draw those in also on the 30-minute here. Whoa, what did I just do? Did not mean to do that. And Tesla finding a high of 357.19, backing off a little bit, ever so slightly, to 356.10. Still up over $7.27, so we're up about 2.08%. BABA starting to push up here. I think we're going to run into that resistance again, though, on the 4-hour on the upper Celt, like it keeps running into. You can see all this week here. See how it's just continuously finding resistance here all week on the 4-hour. It would be significant to break that. I also have that on the other charts. Bidu kind of selling off from its morning push here. I'd like to see this thing find support on the 4-hour lower Celt, and then perhaps I would get long on it, but as it sits right now, there's no way. AMD finding some nice support here on the middle Celt on the 4-hour as well. This thing could start to push up with the market as the market starts to push up a little bit more here this morning. Qualcomm just beasting today for Qualcomm. This is just awesome to see this thing finally starting to move over the last few days. Disney starting to push up here. It is finding a little bit of resistance here on the 14 MA on the 4-hour, and McDonald's finding all its way down to the middle Celt on the 4-hour, but being bought up just ever so slightly. Definitely will keep an eye on McDonald's. I do have some. I did sell some premium on McDonald's last week. That's doing quite well, so I might take off a little bit of that this week. I'm not sure yet, though. So, and back down into Apple. So let's get back to our divergence. So ticking up pretty strong today so far. The VIX was quite elevated here at a 1587 level. It came down all the way down to this 1553, 52 area, ever so slightly up here again at 1560. You can see on the ad divergence line, we're still staying around in the 600. So we hit a high of 757. So we're just going to do this nice little snake slither here. It looks like a sign, like a, but so we're still significantly bullish, still above the 600. So that's good. Staying up there, that'll be significant to watch. If this thing starts to sell off with the market and the VIX continues to rise, that's where I'd get worried, especially when you see with these bonds being pushed up like they are. You can see they didn't sell off, harder than they were pre-market. They're starting to push back up. So this, and along with gold, has me definitely leaning again. Like I just keep pushing this. It's just gonna be a super, super choppy day today. And this right here is like the telltale sign that if the bonds and gold continue to stay where they're at and pushing up, while the market's just ever so slightly elevated, this is gonna stay like this probably all the way to this afternoon. I also don't think that the meeting today is really that significant. I think that a lot of people might be waiting for that. It's just hard to say because I think they pretty much know the outcome. But the thing is they might be waiting for that. And even though it might be nothing that they announce, I think that's when things might start moving. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Check in on Apple. It's going to be interesting to see if Apple can find all-time highs today. If it can push up a little bit more here, we're going to see all-time highs today. At least, even if it's not today, I think we'll see that in the next couple of days. It's significantly pushing up. But we're kind of at that point now in the morning where, and especially with this low volume like today, it's just kind of slowly hovering. So, will be interesting to see if anything gets moving. It just, like I was saying, pre-market, it always sucks when they do those announcements so late in the day at 2 p.m. Yeah, Fed rate decision and Powell news conference today at 2 p.m. So the news conference when Powell speaks too might be interesting to see if that starts pushing markets around. It's just what's the word I'm looking for? Annoying that it has to be so late in the day. The Dow is finally back up in the green, but trailing significantly behind the NASDAQ and the S&P, which are NASDAQ's up 0.34%, S&Ps are up 0.28%, and the Dow is up 0.05%. I'm sure that HD plunge this morning did not help the Dow one bit. So let's see here on these. Yep, there's the all-time highs in Apple, guys, at 271.07. Crazy. Boom. Happened quicker than I thought. Pushed right up over that. Wow. Yeah, so there we go. I mean, it's obviously backing off here a little bit here, but it'll be interesting to see if it can keep those gains and push up. That's just awesome to see. Now is just gonna sell off, you son of a. Damn it. No, I think that's just expected. Some profit. I mean, every time you kind of hit something like that, especially on a day like today when you hit all-time highs, of course, people are gonna take some profits, right? Yeah, I didn't expect it to fly so quick like that. That might be a bad thing, though. That might be exactly why it starts to sell back off now. And on a day like today, the market definitely, needs that to push up. But we're doing pretty good. So Skyworks is already up 3.5%, Beyond 2.6%, Qualcomm 2.3%, Tesla 1.7%, Netflix 1.3%, Activision 1.3%, Cirrus 1.3%, Shop 1.15%, Disney. So there's some big names pushing up pretty good here already this morning. So that's definitely that's a pretty good sign. Into the afternoon will be the interesting thing to see, especially when the new 4-hour candles open. It'll be interesting to see where these go. So Apple kind of selling off here after hitting all-time highs, which again is not too crazy. So Skyworks, you can see, is not at all-time highs. It is at a very it hasn't been this high in a while. You can see the all-time high here at 115.98, hitting a high today of 108.27. So we are closing back in on those all-time highs, which I think were from 2018, wasn't it? Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. Skyworks also, I don't know if you guys, a lot of you guys weren't even, I know a few of you guys weren't even trading yet, but so Skyworks was the same thing as AMD and NVIDIA. The whole cryptocurrency craze thing, it significantly caught some correlation trades from NVIDIA and AMD. That's why you see those all-time highs on those products, and it's so frustrating because it's just going to be so hard for them to get back up there again. I mean, AMD has been on a grind to get back up to where it is now. So, especially, and I actually, I mean, I called it then, and that's why I sold all my shares back in 2017. But I really thought AMD would be over $50 by now. I'm really surprised we haven't seen it climb through these 40s yet. But it's had a lot of heavy competition and a lot of loss of. I mean, the whole cryptocurrency crash was significantly damaging to AMD as well as NVIDIA. So I don't know if I've explained this recently, you guys. The reason that I'm constantly going back and forth between Apple and Skyworks is that Skyworks 100% is a correlated trade to Apple. Yes, every once in a while they'll move independently, but because Skyworks is basically like 80% dependent on Apple revenue, whenever we see Apple significantly move, you can literally interlace these and look, and Skyworks will generally move right along with it. So going into the future here, I think that Skyworks, we will see it start to diverge away because it's going to need to start from a fundamental standpoint. It's going to need to start to diversify its clientele. Otherwise, I mean, Apple is doing a lot of good things, I think, as a company to separate themselves from just being like, oh, we just sell iPhones. With all the wearable stuff, them getting into the health stuff, I've heard a lot of rumors about their big push for the 5G stuff. I talked about that a couple weeks ago with you guys on here. All the stuff that Tim Cook has been doing with Trump, that is actually very, very intelligent what he is doing. I think that it will always be a significant role in Skyworks' business model, but I think that they need to start to have that other side, that when we see things like last year where Apple was having such huge issues in China and it just crashed, I was able to make a huge play on Skyworks because it wasn't correlated like immediately. I had about 10 minutes, and I'm not even joking. It was about 10 minutes where they were moving independent, and I was able to get in on a huge short position that then just immediately tanked. And it was one of my largest winners, literally I've ever had. It wasn't like quite as crazy percentage wise as like the Roku play this summer, but it was like a huge dollar amount. See, and just as I was saying that, you can see as Apple was selling off and this was still pushing up, and now it's starting to sell back off. Isn't that crazy how this works with correlated to Apple? I'm not kidding. Like you can do this about every day. Like I mean, it obviously diverges a little bit, but see how it's like slightly delayed. It is the weirdest thing. Obviously, you would have wanted to see this Apple play to continue to fade away, to catch that Skyworks fade, but still, you get the idea here. What I'm trying to trying to express here. Netflix continuing to make a nice little push up here this morning after all that negative news and drop yesterday, which was pretty significant. You can see on the 4 hour hit a low of 292.02, so it did drop below 300 there just for a second again. I think I made the bet with Spartacus about Netflix. I don't know if you're on here right now. I know you're at work, but I think our bet was that Netflix was under 300 by New Year's. Isn't that what we said? I know we had a couple of them going, but I mean, I got a couple weeks, I guess, but we'll see. It was downgraded pretty significantly, and I just don't see it. I mean, the thing is with all the competition with like Disney Plus and Apple TV, I'm actually been pretty impressed. From a consumer standpoint, it's actually pretty good. Disney Plus, yeah, it's not really that great. I mean, I've been watching The Mandalorian, but other than that, everything else you can find for free other places, right? But and that's most of my stuff. I download and stream that kind of stuff anyway. But Netflix still is leading the pack with their original programming. I'm sorry, but there's no one out there yet who has even close to what Netflix has been putting up. I know Amazon has been saying, in quotes, saying they've been spending a whole lot of money on original programming and stuff they're going to be pushing in 2020, so that'll be interesting to see. But as it stands right now, Netflix absolutely is the king of the original programming. Amazon's had some really good series. Their movies though just seem to be lacking. Like just they're kind of crappy. I mean they've been getting better like this year, but Netflix has a lot of big stuff coming out this year that looks pretty good. And also that they're getting more into the theaters, and Amazon also is kind of following suit behind them. So it'll be interesting to see. I still think that Netflix is a pretty broken story in the recent, but it'll be interesting to see what happens this year with that. Our ad divergence line is starting to break down here, getting down into the low 600s here at 607 as I'm speaking. Still ticking pretty much how we have been, pretty much straight across in the S&P. You can see here, which is the blue yellow. And then the NASDAQ and the Russell pretty much just chopping straight across. And the NYSE is ticking pretty strong up. The VIX is starting to fall pretty decent here, just nice and steady decline this morning. I'd really like to see this thing under like 14 today. I just don't... I don't think with the way that there's a lot of fear in the market right now, so it'll be interesting to see where we end up today. But it's definitely going to be this exact kind of day right here, guys. It's just going to be a choppy chop all day long. Oh, what the heck is going on with this thing? God, it's just weird. We were just talking about this in Discord about how slow and choppy Thinkorswim has been acting, and like right now, I've been having like massive issues. Oh, Skyworks pushed over 4% there for a second. Because Apple's starting to push back up again. See? Told you. Oh my God, it's just so frustrating. You guys can't see it on one of my other monitors. It's like I'm trying to move stuff around, and like every time I click on something, it's like delayed by like 3 seconds. Oh my God, I'm going to freak out. You guys might get to hear me punch something. Stop. Oh my God. There we go. There we go. Oh my God, this is seriously making me angry. There it goes. I really think I'm going to call them today. I know we were kind of joking about it pre-market, but I really think I'm going to call them. I just want to see like if they've been getting like an influx of calls from people complaining about the same issues we've all been having. Because obviously, like I said, if it was just me, I would have been like, okay, it's whatever, my connection, my computer, whatever. But the more I brought it up, and the more you guys have brought it up, there's obviously something going on there. And I know DT was saying something about he was agreeing with me about like the traffic thing. I just don't see though how a company this big wouldn't have proper server and bandwidth allocation, but maybe they don't. I don't understand, but I mean, and so like I do music too, and so one of the problems that I would always run into, right? So as you add a bunch of like MIDI instruments and effects, you can put as much audio as you ever imagine, right? Like you could just record hundreds and hundreds of tracks and never have a problem. But when you start adding like virtual instruments and digital effects, it starts to take up a huge amount of hard disk space. And so then you start seeing huge CPU lag. So I was thinking it was like the same thing with like the trading platforms. And because I have, all these monitors and I have, multiple charts with, and I don't use a lot of indicators or anything, but I have enough. And I have some, a bunch of different ones on different frames and stuff. So I was thinking maybe that had something to do with it. So what I would do is I would go in and I would just delete half of it, or I would literally close out like everything but like 2 pages, and it was still doing the same thing. So I was like, okay, well, this obviously has nothing to do with it. The mobile app has always kind of had some issues here and there. I've actually had not very many problems at all lately, like the last 6 months. I did have a lot of problems with it last year, but that's kind of expected from like a free mobile app. But my whole thing is if it costs like a couple dollars or even like $1 a month, I would gladly pay for it if it would work flawlessly. So it's almost frustrating that it is free to me. And it's one of those things where you get what you pay for. Well, I agree with that, but at the same time, well, then let me pay for it and make it better. So I almost welcome this Charles Schwab takeover of TD Ameritrade or of Thinkorswim, sorry, not TD Ameritrade, of Thinkorswim, because I'm hoping that Charles Schwab will, allocate a little bit more resources for their Thinkorswim and maybe, we'll see some positive changes is what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping they don't just try to put it in there and take a back seat to their original platform. I actually have a Schwab account. I don't like it for trading. It is fantastic for investing. It's great for banking the way it's all set up. I don't know if any of you else have it, but as far as like trading and especially options, no way. I would not want to use it. It would be absolutely horrendous, I think. Man, Skyworks is just ripping today. Already up 4.3%. Let's go ahead and take a look back at her. Where you at, Skyworks? There you are. Man, this thing is just ripping this morning. That is awesome. Yeah, you can see on the daily here. So it's just been in this nice uptrend. So I bought back in here. When was that? No, it was last week. Yeah, right here, right on the lower Celt. And I didn't get quite that price. I think I paid, let me see, what's it say on the other side? 97. So yeah, so right in here. So basically on like the 30 MA when it crossed in there. It didn't look like this obviously on that day, right? But yeah, so that trade has worked out significantly well. I wish, obviously, of course, I've got some Romo going on. I regret that I sold those contracts. I thought it was going to run into resistance on the upper Celt on the daily, so I got rid of half my positions. But still, I've got 3 runners left still, and they're doing very well. I mean, they're up. Well, let's see here. They're up 645% and 1,250%. So that's awesome. Peloton down 5.83% again today. Jeez. After the short seller warning thing, that's pretty funny. That company is flawed. I mean, I'm not saying their equipment, their machines, whatever, they're pretty sweet. I've seen them. I've seen two of them in real life. They're very nice. Their business model and the fact that they went public to me is just outlandish. Just dumb. I want to check in on Activision, and then I want to look at Shop again and NVIDIA. So give me just a second here. See, and I would agree with some of that stuff on the TOS and you guys, but the problem is like I would go in and I would reallocate disk space, and I literally have this thing running at like an incredibly high speed. I've also put in new cards. I bought that new AMD setup. When was that? Like 2 months ago, I think, when we were having issues with the streaming thing. So I put those in like a month and a half ago. And I agree with you, but like when I backed off, it was still doing the same thing, even when I would just have the two, and then putting in all the disk space, and I literally opened it wide up. Now, however, I will admit, after I did the AMD stuff, I no longer am ever having that little, and I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about, that little pop-up that happens where it says like it's running slow or running out of memory, press whatever and restart, and I haven't had that happen ever since we did the upgrade. You also, I'm sure, have noticed that there's almost been no dropped frames on the streaming. That has a lot to do with the way that I reset up everything else, put money, and then I spent about $700 just on crap for streaming, and it's made a huge difference. We're still streaming through YouTube, right? We're going to change a few things eventually in the future, but what we'll be implementing, and I've been trying to do it, just having issues, we want to have the audio coming directly from Discord, which we will have here very soon. I actually was going to start it last week, but we had some issues with it. I'm still having some issues where it's dropping it out, but there are other things I've been looking into. There's some like much fancier streaming applications. The problem is one of them works really great, and it also can go to YouTube and Twitch, and I can't remember the other one, simultaneous. So we may end up doing that. It's a paid program, but it's way worth it in my book. So I may end up doing that. It'll benefit all of us. I just I've been trying to learn the program. It's very complicated, actually. It's very weird, and it's hard to do when we're, trading full time. I'm traveling a lot right now. It's wintertime. This is like kind of like a weird time for me. It's like my summer, right? I don't travel a lot in the summer. I do it more in the winter for various reasons. Obviously, a lot to do with snowboarding and, with filming and stuff for one of the other companies. But I definitely am looking into that, so that'll be something to change. Because the other thing is that it's driving me nuts is that you guys are getting the 30-second delay, and that bothers me. Not that it should matter a lot with options, right? Because it's like 30 seconds. Like that's like if we were like all like momentum small cap traders, then it would be a huge problem. But we've had a couple of times here. We all know that like we've had issues where we were streaming and I was trying to help somebody live on stream and it's delayed to the point where, it could make a huge difference between them getting out or buying in or selling at a really good price or, losing, a couple $100. So, I do understand. So that's very, very significant. U.S. crude oil inventories, 0.822 mil versus negative 2.763 forecast. So that is very, very significant. The problem is that a lot of times, yeah, you can see right there just dumping. Yeah, so oil is one of those weird things, especially when traders first get into it. They always think it's the opposite. So basically, good news for oil is when it's bad and there's not enough, right? So supply and demand. If there's too much supply, then demand backs off and it gets way, way cheaper. So if there's less supply and a higher demand, then this where we see these rockets. So that number coming out, you can just see oil just absolutely tanking here. I mean, that's what we were watching this morning, right? It's just this nice little climb. We were sitting at about 59.20, and then boom, it just dropped to 58.60. 59.20. That's huge for oil. So now, yeah, see, it's already down now 1%. So that way, and it was up, just slightly. So that's over a 1% drop in 5 minutes. That's crazy. And so for you guys, if you ever want to know, I wouldn't jump into this right away. Maybe paper trade this, of course. I'm always going to say, if you guys want to start looking at oil and trading it, I definitely think oil is one of those things that is significant for the market. It's definitely important to watch and learn how it moves and pay attention. But if you want to trade it, the ticker symbol that's best, unless you want to, I would never tell anybody to start off trading the futures /CL, is trade the ETF. So trade USO. So it's ticker symbol USO. At least paper trade it, and I would even say just do that for a while just to learn how it moves, and it correlates with the market very, very significantly. Oil used to be, basically oil and gold were, everything. So while I was giving my oil speech, you can see gold is starting to just rocket right up here. I mean, it's not like rocketing, but it's pushing up pretty good, as well as bonds are starting to be bought up. This is definitely a bearish signal right here, you guys. This page that I constantly am pulling up, my futures page, this is why I watch these so significant. You can see these pushing up pretty strong here. Market is selling off just ever so slightly right now, but this is extremely bearish, you guys, especially going into this afternoon. So yeah, we're going to get a lot of chop around here. You can see oil starting to be bought back up. So, but this is not a good sign. This is not bullish. I mean, I obviously think this is a good sign because I think the market needs to sell off a little bit so we can get that, catch a little bit of a breath and then take off to that next line up, which I still absolutely am sticking to my guns on that. But you can see how this is starting to push up a negative divergence here. So that is something that I am constantly watching. Yeah, and you can see here on the add divergence line now below, that's well below that 600 line, down at 433. So that is definitely significant as the VIX is starting to push up also, you guys. So that is definitely something to be paying attention to. Nice, Spartacus. I'm not sure if you're on here, but good job, man. Yeah, oil inventories rose by 822,000 last week. Dang, crazy. I always wonder how that works. I don't actually know how it works, but God, what a choppy day. Shopify pulling back a little bit here now, guys, down to 370.33. Beyond still up 2.5%, Qualcomm up 2.5, Tesla up 1.8, Netflix 1.8, Sirius 1.4, Activision up 1%, Disney up 1%, Baba up about 1, Twitter 0.8, Nvidia 0.8, Baidu 0.8, Cat actually up 0.7%, and Apple buying back up a little bit here, ever so slightly, up at 270.25. As far as my watch list losers, oh my God, I'm gonna freaking kick this thing. What is going on here? There we go. So Boeing down 2%, HD down 2%, oil USO 1.65, 1.5, AMD down 0.6, Costco down 0.56, and HP and Target both down about 0.5, 0.4%. Spartacus wants me to look at UPS real quick, so give me 1 second, guys. So, guys, what he's asking is, in Discord, he's asking if I think UPS is going to fall more. So what I'm seeing here is, so like on the daily, you've got the lower Celt right here. So it's finding support there. On the 4 hour, it also has its support on the 14 MA. So what I would want to see is if it can break this support on the 14 MA on the 4 hour, break lower Celt on the daily, this thing could absolutely fall. I mean, you got a low here at 114. 25. I mean, it had hit a low of 111.78. The low for the last year has been 89.89. I mean, it's got plenty of room with almost no support really below here. I mean, you got support, on these technical levels, and then support around 116. I mean, if it breaks that level, there's no reason it couldn't follow more. So this would be a matter of like risk to reward. He's up 60%. So depending on how many contracts he has, this is why, we're always saying, get a couple of contracts at least. I would say that if I had those gains, I would lock in at least one or two of them and let one or two of them run, depending on how many he has, to see if it can break this. But I would definitely lock in some of those profits right now. So that's what I'm going to tell him. So I'm going to tell him that I would, if you have multiple contracts, oh, he's got 17 of them. Yeah, okay. Then yeah, absolutely. So I would absolutely take in some of those profits, like honestly, maybe half and half. Take off half of those with those profits, and then let the other half run. I mean, that's quite a big position. So yeah, that's what I would do. He must be on. I'm gonna tell him that right now. Hold on 1 second, guys. Okay, there we go. Wait, so you only sold one of them and you're letting 16 run, or I mean I mean it's only down 1%. I mean, yeah, I can understand. I would sell a little bit more though if I had them at 60%, but there's definitely room to the downside for sure. Are you on here? Are you on, Spartacus? Are you on stream? I never know if you're on because of your work, so I don't know if I'm just talking to you or not. Well, I don't know if he is. I'm going to tell him the same thing I just said anyway. Ah. Yeah, with like price targets on this thing, I mean, I don't see this thing going anywhere at least today. The only problem is then he's going to be dealing with like theta decay, right? But you can see as we're talking, like it's starting to break down this 4 hour on the 14. So then I'd be looking for the second target here. I'd be looking at like 116, ish area, and then yeah, so that like 116.05, 116.16. Yeah, see, it's starting to break that down. So I'd be looking for this thing to get down to here. Target 1 and target 2, maybe like 115. Target 3 would be this like below that. Like if I don't know if it'll get down to this 111, but I mean that's be target 3. This thing could just continue to break down though over the next few days. This doesn't necessarily. I mean this is a significant downgrade. So you can see our add divergence line continuing to fall down here. We are sitting at about 363 now. And you can see the ticks have all kind of started to hump over now. So these are starting to tick down significantly going into the afternoon here. I want to see those bonds are just, yeah, the bonds in gold are just continuing to push up. So this is definitely a bear signal. I mean, they're pushing up significantly now. So this is, this will be interesting to see what we get out of this. What the hell is Children's Place? Like, I even have kids. That must be a kids' clothing store. I just keep they keep talking about how it missed earnings, but I'm like, I don't. It's like I don't even know what that is, so I don't see why it's. So the Dow has turned negative once again, you guys, down 0.11%, while the Nasdaq and S&P are still up 0.18 and 0.25. So that is significant to point out here. As we continue to tick down, and our divergence line is just continuing to fall here, down at 332 now. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what, if anything, changes as we get into these meetings this afternoon. Willie, yeah. Oh man, that sucks. market starts to follow through. I'm wondering though. I don't see us. What was our low yesterday? 31.16. Yeah, that's pretty much lower than I was thinking. So I don't. Yeah, that'd be hard to retest that low from yesterday. Divergence line continuing to fall here, down now to a 283 as these ticks are starting to hump over significantly, ticking down, pushing down here around 31.38ish level, somewhere in there. So we're starting to turn the tide a little bit. Oh boy. Well, what in the heck? Oh my gosh. I have to have to share this. So one of these, what do you want to call them? I don't know. They put the word capital at the end of their Twitter handle, so therefore they're an expert. Historically, in the context of secular uptrends, contrarian strategies and overbought tactics can be extremely frustrating for long periods of time. Wow, genius statement of the year right there. Yeah, no kidding. It's the whole point of being a No, 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 no way. This is not the crash. This isn't even close, my friend. When we're talking about a crash, man, we're talking about like a 2-3% daily into like 5-10%, if not 20% down markets. No, not yet. Not even close. I mean, we're still positive right now. We're 0.04% green. No, man, this is what we've been talking about, guys, where this is just this is a healthy pullback. This is a healthy resting period for the market. This is absolutely positive. When the market just goes up like it was, it needs a few days where it'll do this to kind of breathe and shake out the webs, right? It needs to rest, and then it can take off. Because when things get so overbought, there's just not a lot of room to keep running, especially on the lower volume, right? And then there's a lot of politics going on, a lot of macro events, blah, 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 blah. But the real deal is that for this thing to reach the next leg up, which I still absolutely believe is going to happen, it needs some time to rest and consolidate before we can get that next leg up. So having days like this for a couple of weeks that's absolutely healthy. In fact, it's really bad when it just keeps going up so fast. That's when it just turns around and just crashes out of nowhere, and just leaves people completely screwed, right? So no, this is absolutely healthy. We've been expecting this. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. So I would expect to see a little bit more of this. Today it could be chalked up to the FOMC stuff, the Fed speech coming out this afternoon at 2 p.m. Powell also has a little meeting speech thing afterwards, so that could have a little bit to do with it, which I'm sure it does. But on a technical level, this is a lot to do with sentiment. It just needs to breathe for a few days. And and I see this. Wow, the VIX is just ripping right there. But I could see this happening for a few days and then get that next leg up. I'm expecting to see this an uptrend continue for about the next couple weeks to 3 weeks. I expect that big drop in quotes that I've been talking about, like a real big pullback, happening probably in January. So I think we'll continue to kind of chop around in December and kind of keep pushing up. I think we will absolutely, or at least we need to get the big drop. I think we'll need to hit a new all-time high significantly. I was thinking more like a 3,200. And then I would be looking for that big drop. So that's kind of, I know that's kind of a roundabout answer, but it's kind of the same thing I've been talking about the last couple of weeks. So yeah, we definitely need to see this, we need to see this consolidate for a little bit and then get that next leg higher. I've been working on a few things. I know I posted a couple little charts last night. I will post my big outlook for 2020, maybe tonight. There's just a few other things I'm trying to update. The problem is I've also been waiting on a few things. The big thing has been the tariff delay. So December 15th has been like a huge variable in my whole formula that like I just don't know what's going to happen this weekend. So I'd really like an answer. I think the thing is, though, is that Trump has been waiting for today. I think he's going to base a lot of his decision off of what they say today. I'm sure he's been meeting with Powell. I absolutely know that's true. So there's a lot of weird variables right now. So it's a big important meeting today. Even though I think absolutely nothing is going to come out of it, I think nothing coming out of it is actually a significant move. So I hope that makes sense. So I would say like, yeah, January. Yeah, so that's kind of that's the short answer I just typed to you, Zarkon, and then that's basically what I keep kind of saying. That's why I want to why we've been going slow over the last month or so, talking about hedging and stuff. That's why Darth put those videos out. That's why we've been talking about it in Discord. So I've been working on a shorter video. I actually have most of it recorded with some live trades and some live examples in there, so I just need to finish editing it, and then I want to post it up by this weekend. And it's just like a short and sweet, but very, very, very explained well hedging video about where we're headed, and then why I keep setting them up the way I do, how long out I go, what I'm selling, what I'm buying, what I'm looking at, why I'm doing it. And you can hedge to both ways, right? Like most people, when you say hedging, they always assume that it's like buying the VIX or selling volatility, which is a big part of what I do. But I mean, hedging can go both ways, right? It's usually that if you're directional one way, hedging is just the opposite side, right? But there's a little bit more to it, because it's like you can't just go out and buy anything. You can't just buy some random, contract or position. So I want to get that video out so that and I want it shorter so that you guys can watch it a couple times and even watch it, now, and then watch it again in a couple weeks, or, even when it all happens. But I think it's something important for all of us in this group to be aware of and to do, because I found, I should say, as soon as I started like properly hedging and not just randomly buying things to like think I was protecting myself, but when I like really was hedging properly, it literally became like the most stress-free way to trade, because all of a sudden when we'd have those crazy drops, I was almost excited, because I was like, bam, I'm making a crap ton of money on this side, and I know the market will get bought back up. And that has been the name of the game for the last, over 10 years, but basically like as long as I've been doing this is like that we'd get a big giant sell off. I'd make some good money from my hedges, and then it would be bought right back up, because it's been the name of the game is buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, right? I think those days are getting numbered, to be honest, but that's a strategy that has been working very, very well for 11 years now. But I definitely think that things are much harder than they've ever been. I know that people always, you'll see people, especially guys that have been trading for a long time, they always say that, well, like, oh, every day and every year I've been trading, it's always the end of the end. And I get what they're saying, and I agree with that. But at the same time, we have never seen the market like this. These are unprecedented times for sure. So I do think that learning how to do these correctly will be just the proper way to learn. It is frustrating when you don't know, and it's extremely frustrating when it works against you. Man, see, that's why I like Willie so much, just because the way he thinks about things. So I asked him, are you getting stopped out from a set point, or are you pulling the trigger when it's going against you? And he replied, I stopped at the open. My impatience got me. Was already down on it. Didn't want to make it worse. Move on to the next trade. That right there, that guy, he is going to be successful, like for sure. Like his attitude is so awesome, because he knows that there's another trade, right? And that's what we're always trying to push. And I know it's so hard when things keep going against you, but that is one of the things we're trying to do with this group, you guys. And that's why we want you to ask. We want you to be involved. We want you guys to not feel like you have to be hesitant asking something, and you don't have to always DM, one of us. I mean, I know a few of you do, and it's absolutely fine that you DM me and Darth and Addict. That's cool. We like it, but at the same time, it's actually good, because if you guys have a question, I guarantee you there's somebody else in the group that has that same question. So it's actually good to ask it out in the open so that it helps somebody else too, But that kind of attitude right there, man, that is a successful trader in the making, because he's absolutely right. Move on to the next trade. Don't let it get to you. Shake it off. Yeah, it'll always, it still bothers me. I hate losing trades, right? It sucks. I hate winning trades that I should have made more on. But like, there is always another opportunity. The best thing is use it to your advantage. Damn, Peloton's down 7.82% now. Holy crap. So yeah, the 2019 IPOs, Uber, Lyft, Chewy, Peloton. That is crazy to see the difference in those things. What a weird year for IPOs. Sorry, that just popped up on the news and I got distracted there. It's crazy to think just a year ago, literally exactly a year ago, we were the Fed was increasing the rate for the fourth time in a year last year. And then I don't expect it to drop, but it's just crazy the difference going from last year to this year. And then if you guys remember, we had that like giant Christmas crash. So it was like, no wonder. And they keep raising like that, and especially at such a bad time with retail numbers last year. And then it just crashes. It's just like, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and the Dow just keeps falling today. So it'll be interesting to see if this actually gets saved by the Fed meeting and people start buying back in, or if this will be the sell the news that most people are calling for. Most people I've seen, social media-wise and on the news, have all been doing the whole sell the news play today. So I almost wonder if that pull the rug out from under them and buy it back up. Yeah, and I don't even know if I haven't even taken any new trades today. I'm not even directional, but I almost want to go non-directional. I almost feel like somewhat of a neutral play. But as I'm watching this, I mean, just look at this. You can see right here, we're ticking significantly down on most of the markets. S&P is pretty much flat, but the VIX is just continuing to rise. We're already at a 15.94, so we're heading towards a 16. The ad divergence line continues to fall. We're down at a 109, and we started the morning at like a 633, hit a high of 757, and we've just been dropping here. And you can see the market has just kind of been doing the same thing, just starting to drop down. So definitely Definitely a significant thing to watch, and you can also see here on the bonds just starting to just absolutely push up. We're at a 158.17 now, and gold is continuing to push up. We're not at the high for today was 1475.70, but we're close. We're at a 1475, so within 70 cents of pushing up for daily high. Oil did start to make a little bit of comeback after that big drop there. It's starting to push back up a little bit. I don't think oil is going to move too significant more this today, but these bonds and gold, this is just this is not a good signal. But it's really really hard to say either way because we're all kind of waiting for that Fed speech tonight. Or tonight, this afternoon. Sorry. Banks are kind of mixed this morning. Goldman Sachs down 0.16, Citi down 0.09, Bank up 0.45, JP Morgan up 0.16, and Wells Fargo up 0.19. So kind of definitely mixed signals on the bank, so it's really hard to tell, which is probably why we're seeing the XLF just kind of hovering around this 30.27. I mean, it's basically been literally, look at that. It's just absolutely flat on the XLF here. Literally as flat as you could get today. So it's pretty interesting to see. So the market pushing up a little bit. The bonds backing off ever so slightly, but gold not really backing off much at all. So that's definitely still a lot of risk and fear in the market today. That's not backing off as a significant amount as you would think. So I'm going to check in a little bit on some more names. So let's look at our fangs here. So Facebook been pushing up nice and steady this morning. Backed off there just a little bit on that last 15-minute candle, but starting to push back up. So we're up about 0.32%. Apple hitting that all-time high of 271.07, so up 7 cents on the all-time high, and then just totally back down here to the 269, but bought back up a little bit here at 269.46. Amazon still just chopping. I mean, it looks like it's more significant down than it is, but that's only $1.50 on a $1,700 product. So yeah, nothing really significant there. Literally just chopping around. Netflix did push up pretty decent, hit about 2%, but now it's down, so it's about 1.5%, starting to sell off just ever so slightly this morning. That's kind of what we were saying was going to happen earlier. Google literally just completely sideways today, which is just super, super weird to see on the two biggest FANG stocks just trending sideways, well, at least price-wise. And Microsoft doing the exact same thing. So Amazon, Google, Microsoft just literally chopping straight across sideways. Facebook pushing up ever so slightly. Netflix pushing up and then selling off a little bit here. And Apple kind of doing similar where it had pushed up nice and strong, hitting all-time highs, and then backed off. It sold off, but it's starting to bid back up here a little bit. It will be interesting to see if it will push back up to all-time highs by the time this meeting comes up at 2 p.m. So we got basically 3 hours until the meeting. I think I am going to grab something to eat and sign off for a little bit, guys, but I definitely will be back on before the meeting so we can go through the meeting together. I will probably go through a couple of trade ideas while we wait for the Fed meeting. So I will make sure I'm back on probably at least a half hour before we go into the Fed meeting. So I will, I will see you guys 30 minutes before that. I'm still obviously available on Discord. So is Darth, and it looks like Addict is back. At least I know he's pretty busy, but he should be able to be on and off a little bit more. And I know over the next week or two, he should be on here more and more. And hopefully we'll get him back on to streaming with me as well. And we'll both be on and off. Darth will continue to do what we're doing, be pushing into 2020 stronger and stronger. We're going to be adding a lot of new stuff that is going to be awesome to roll out for you guys. Adding just a lot of good stuff that I think is just going to make the group just stronger and better. So I will be back on about 30 minutes, well, probably about like 1:30 Eastern time, so about half an hour at least before the meeting announcements come out, so we can be prepared together and so we can go over a few things. So I will see you guys then. Thanks, guys. Have a good one until I talk to you then.